And welcome back, everyone. As a veteran or first responder, you've spent years in environments where your effort is how you're measured. You've built your reputation. You've endured the selection process, whether it was for an assignment or a promotion. And you're used to setting an objective and achieving it. That's the standard you live by every day. Then somewhere along the line, you probably come to believe something that makes perfect sense. If I do the work, I'll get the result. But there's a reality coming down the pipe. Eventually, the uniform comes off. Whether your transition is on the horizon or you've got some years left before a planned smooth retirement. When you start putting yourself out into the corporate world, you might hit a wall that has nothing to do with your grit or your ability. Yeah, you'll submit the applications, tailor your resume, hopefully, network with all the necessary people. Bottom line, you'll be prepared. And then, nothing. No call, no interview, or worse, that email saying, "Thank you for your interest. We've decided to move forward with another candidate." And that one will probably sting more than you expect. Because somewhere underneath it all, it'll feel like they've rejected you. And then if enough of those stack up, the conversation with yourself can start changing. You might start saying, maybe I'm not as valuable as I thought. You can't fall into that trap. Job rejection isn't usually about your worth. If you don't check your ego right now, while you're still wearing the uniform, that rejection might break you. Detachment is your secret weapon. You have to learn to separate who you are from a system you can't control. Make sure rejection doesn't convince you to lower your belief in yourself. But before we get deeper into this topic, we're going to take a minute and acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. As a first responder, control isn't optional. It's how you do your job. But when it comes to buying or refinancing a home, most lenders don't get your world. Police Mortgage does. They specialize in working with first responders, walking you through the process, breaking down your options, and helping you lock in competitive rates without the runaround. Take control of your financial future with people who have your back. Visit policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. The first thing to understand is how the civilian machine actually works. Because if you don't understand the mechanics of the terrain you're going to step into, you could be walking into an ambush. Right now, you operate in a world of clear signals. If you do the work, hit the standards, and take care of your people, your chain of command recognizes this. There's a clear structure. But when you submit an application to a corporate job, a human being usually doesn't even look at it. Up to 75% of the resumes are tossed into the trash automatically by a computer program called Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS. It's an algorithm. It doesn't care about all the high stress, difficult, and extremely important operations you were involved with. It's just scanning for specific keywords. If your resume doesn't have the exact phrasing the computer wants, your resume will likely get rejected before a hiring manager even knows you exist. If you receive that generic rejection letter, that isn't necessarily a judgment on your character or your worth as an operator or a human being. It's a software error. It just means the mechanics of your paperwork failed to get past the system sensors. As it relates to finding your next career, you have to break yourself with a meritocracy mindset before you take off the uniform. As a veteran or first responder, you're taught that if you meet the requirements and possess the leadership traits, you'll more than likely get the spot. The civilian market doesn't always work that way. A company might freeze its budget tomorrow. They might already have an internal candidate picked out, and they're just interviewing people to check an HR box. They might reject you because they feel you're overqualified. It's actually a real thing. If you apply for a position that they feel is below you or that won't challenge you, they're probably assuming you'll get bored and leave in 6 months. Regardless of the why, there are so many variables at play that have absolutely nothing to do with your capability. If you want to survive this, you have to stop looking for polite praise and start identifying the hiring manager's actual go signals. In these careers, you're used to people thanking you for your service. In an interview, a civilian manager might smile and tell you how much they respect what you do. However, don't mistake politeness for a green light. It might just be noise. A real go signal is operational. It's when the conversation shifts away from your past and starts focusing on their current problems. It's when they stop asking about your old positions and start digging into the numbers. How exactly did you manage that budget? What was your timeline for fixing that issue, whatever the issue was? How did you handle a team member who isn't performing? They're trying to see if your skills translate into immediate business utility. If they aren't asking those specific problem-solving questions, you haven't given them a reason to buy in yet. This is where you have to practice mental discipline. And it's something you can start training for today while you're still wearing this uniform. Think about the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He ran the most powerful military machine on earth, dealing with constant chaos, betrayal, and massive pressure. He survived it by focusing strictly on what he could control and completely ignoring what he couldn't. When you apply for a job, your effort is in your control. The customizing of your resume is in your control. But the hiring manager's response, the company's timeline, the automated filtering software, all that's entirely out of your control. So when a rejection comes in, and they most likely will, or worse, when they completely ghost you after what you thought was a good conversation, you can't treat it like an insult. You have to look at it as a piece of diagnostic data. Think of it like an artillery spotter adjusting fire. If the round misses, the spotter doesn't complain that the target's unfair. They examine the data, they calculate the new coordinates, they make the adjustments to the gun, and they fire again. That's how you decode the civilian terrain. Every no you receive is just a signal telling you to adjust your aim. It might mean your resume narrative is too nuanced to this career. It might mean you're targeting the wrong industry or roles. It might just mean the wind blew a different direction at that company on that day. Whatever the reason, it's just raw material for you to use to refine your approach. You observe the outcome, you strip away the emotion, and you map the gap between where you are and where you need to be. However, we're going to take another break to acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll close out this episode. When it comes to sunglasses, first responders and military members definitely don't baby them. They get dropped, thrown in a utility pocket, or tossed in gear bags. Frontline Optics was created for that reality. You get premium eye protection without paying designer brand prices for something that won't survive your lifestyle. From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective coatings and water-repellent finish. And here's where Frontline Optics separates themselves from the pack. When life happens and your glasses break, they offer a no-questions-asked replacement program, even for prescription lenses. On top of that, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every purchase goes to support the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping families of those who gave everything. So if you're looking for sunglasses that look good and come from a company that actually understands the job, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines. The hardest part about transition isn't losing the uniform. It isn't losing the schedule. It's realizing that maybe for the first time in a long time, nobody owes you anything. That might sound harsh, but it's true. Because if you don't understand this now, rejection might not just disappoint you. It might break you. You spent years in a world where effort and outcome feel connected. You show up. You train. You took the assignments nobody else wanted. You worked the holidays. You missed birthdays. As a veteran or first responder, you've learned that if you want something badly enough, you put your head down, work harder than everyone else, and eventually somebody recognizes it. This world, it's trained you really well, but it's also taught you that there's something dangerous. It's taught you that competence guarantees opportunity, and it doesn't. Civilian hiring doesn't always work like this world. You can be qualified, still not get picked. You can interview well and still lose out. You could be better than the person they chose to hire. You could have 30 years of experience and still receive an email that says, "Thank you for your interest." No explanation, no after action, no corrective action plan, just silence. And if you're not careful, that silence can become your anger and disinterest. You might start saying things like, "They don't understand real commitment. They only hire insiders. They're intimidated by me and my experience." Or, "They don't value people like me." Now, unfortunately, you may never get the real answer. But sometimes, you simply won't be the right fit. Sometimes someone will interview better than you. And sometimes the company will want something different of the person for that given role. And yes, as much as it sucks, obviously except when you're the recipient, sometimes the company will already know who they're planning to hire before you ever applied. But none of that means you're less valuable. Remember, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That's where we get stuck. It's not that we get rejected, but that we expect the civilian world to reward us the same way this world does. You won't have command authority anymore. You won't outrank the hiring manager. Your years of service may have little influence on the overall process. Nobody sees your old titles or duty assignments and automatically assumes that you're competent. That isn't disrespect. That's just reality. And the faster you start embracing this reality, the faster your transition gets easier. Yes, you can keep score. You can collect rejection emails like they're evidence of something. They're not. You could become the bitter person who says, "These companies don't know what they're missing." You can choose to stay angry. You can turn every rejection into confirmation that the system is broken. Because people do all of that stuff. And eventually, they become unemployable, which has nothing to do with a lack of skill, but rather that resentment that's leaking out. Interviewers can feel it. It'll be heard in your answers. They'll see it in your body language. They'll notice when every previous company you applied for is referred to as incompetent or that you weren't treated fairly. They'll notice when every job you didn't get is because it was someone else's fault. No company will want to hire someone who walks in carrying past disappointment like it's a backpack. So this is how you sell yourself and how you deal with the rejection. Can you acknowledge the rejection without becoming bitter? Can you adapt to the next opportunity without losing who you are personally? Can you hear no and remain positive? Can your confidence be in your abilities and not because you feel entitled? For the most part, getting hired won't be about your specific previous titles or positions, not your awards and commendations, and not your war stories that probably only you will think are cool. It'll be about your ability to take rejection and remain useful. Because rejection isn't evidence you don't belong. It's actually the cost of admission. And everybody pays it. Those corporate executives, the hiring managers, the people that you admire, they all have rejection stories. Remember, you're not being singled out. You're going to be entering the civilian market, and the market won't really care what you used to be. It puts its stock on your value today, which, when you realize that, can actually be freeing. Because if they don't owe you anything, you don't owe them your identity. You can better accept that every application might not succeed. You don't need every interview to validate your career. And every rejection can just be a rejection. You just need to keep moving, learn, make adjustments, and apply again. Because transition isn't won by the person who never hears no. It's won by the person who stops interpreting no as a personal attack. Now, if you want more on this topic, along with more information on transition planning and preparation, I highly recommend my weekly newsletter. Check out the link in the show notes to sign up. I know you'll get some benefit from it. And if you don't, let me know so that I can keep working to make it better. So then, how do you handle tomorrow? You understand that your transition is not a search for validation. You start treating the corporate world like a piece of unfamiliar human terrain that you need to study before you deploy. That means you stop treating your resume like a monument to your past glories and start treating it like a tool designed to solve a specific civilian problem. If you send out that same generic document and get nothing but silence, that information is telling you that your approach is probably ineffective. You might need to change the key words, strip out more of the jargon from our world, and rewrite your story so that a civilian manager actually understands what you can bring to their organization. At the same time, you need to build a psychological firebreak between your worth as a person and the automated responses of corporate HR. When that email notification pops up telling you that you didn't make the cut, you don't stall out, you don't complain, and you don't take it personally. You take a breath. You acknowledge it. You adjust your sights. You push forward to the next application. Right now, while you're still in uniform, use the time wisely to build your armor. Don't wait until your final out date to realize that the market doesn't owe you your next career. The civilian market is indifferent, but you are adaptable. So protect your mindset and don't fear the rejections. I appreciate you staying until the end. Staying all the way through helps the engagement ratings. I'm always going to ask this. Send me your comments. Please be honest with me. What do you like? What am I doing wrong? I can't make any changes unless you tell me what you need. Also, please share the podcast with anyone who you think would benefit and enjoy it. And if you're not already, please follow the podcast wherever you're getting this episode. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.